So, let us continue on the issue of what is normal and abnormal, and we ended up at that on this slide where all this the sources of all problems, but these are not the sources of problem only, these are your life also. So, this is how human life is. What is your life and what you are living for is the source of your happiness and source of your sadness, is a source of great achievements, a source of great failures. It is a source of bringing in huge changes and source of becoming a victim of forces, is a source of frustration, it is a source of complacency, it is a source of sense of achievement, but at the background may be this thing. And once people get into this vicious cycle, so one decision which you take at certain point of time may be the right decision at that time, whether it is right or not the time proves, but even while taking the decision it may not be a pure cognitive logical sequence of things. It may be just a whole plethora of things which get into your head. And so, now everybody does it, lot of people live like this with some good things, some bad things, some frustration, some achievement, some relationship problem, some good things in the relationship, and that is why it is considered normal. So, when does a behavior become abnormal and when does it qualify for this being a sign of mental illness? This is a big thing, because if you tell somebody that you are mentally ill, unless the person is feeling himself, he would normally brush it off, and he would probably give you a lot of example that okay fine, this other person is also doing like this other person. So, in this whole confusion you bring the person to a psychiatrist, psychiatrist has a whole list of symptoms by which they can. So, whether something is a mental illness or it is a problem of living, this issue is bothering not only general public, but also professionals. And if you look at it, forget mental illness for a time, conflicts and fear are universal, everybody has it. Emotion versus thought, everybody has it. Individual versus society, these are sources of where a behavioral aberration can arise. Age old vices, we will talk about vices in the next lecture, they bring in direct conflict with society. So, what is the result? Anxiety, or what we commonly call depression. But is this depression an illness? It may require help. Help is different. Help or treatment. This is a question not only for people, but for professionals also. Whether they are, whoever comes to them, whether they are helping that person or treating that person. Most of the time it is the latter actually. Social stigma. Now, the social stigma of mental illness was so much that all these people were called as either deviant, disruptive, harmful. Intention, as I talked about, determines. So, society handled with witch hunting initially, then prison, then lunatic asylum, mental hospital, and now the mainstreaming, what you commonly call as rehab of a mentally ill person, is in vogue. And why should not it be? Because if people have a little bit of illness and you treat them, they can always get back to life. But if people are not ill and you are trying to help them, that help is not going to happen outside the system. One has to understand this difference. And so, if somebody has a illness, what do? You treat and send them to mainstream. Maybe, and when you treat, it can be in a hospital, or it can be home, and you give a leave to person for 2 weeks and say you rest, take your medicines, be all right and get back to work. Simple. But what happens when you are helping a person? When you are helping, do you take off the person from the mainstream and then send for rehab? This is a question which is still unresolved, because if sometimes you can do it, but suppose if there is a stress at work and the person gets off, but again he has to go back to work only. So, the solution which he has found in isolation, is it going to work back into the same situation where stress is arising? That is something which is as I said. So, what is happening? The categories are either experiential or descriptive, and categories in what you call a diagnostic and statistical manual and international classification disease are treatment based category. You have labels like depression, you have mania, you have OCD, you have schizophrenia and so on and so forth. So, there is a certain set of symptoms and there is a matching treatment. This is where medically it is being worked. But again, if there are no clear cut symptoms and you think it is a problem of living in the background which is leading to depression, so you give medicines plus psychotherapy, or people do meditation, yoga and lot many things which are the fringe things to the basic issue. But the basic issue which I was discussing remains. If the person has a illness, you treat him, he gets back, but the person who requires help in problem of living, should he actually get away from the situation? Briefly think of a solution, but ultimately he has to get back to that situation. This is important, because when we will talk of transformation, I will tell you why it is so important. So, does it mean that there are no psychiatric illnesses and everything is a problem of illness? No. The epidemiology which has undergone into the study of psychiatric illnesses tells that 1/3 of the population at any time is actually ill. Whether they have a problem of living and that has caused the illness, or it primarily a illness, is a different issue altogether. So, there is a worldwide prevalence in the whole thing. Genetics we were talking about. So, no man is an island, we are all connected by genes, the common pool of genes, we share more than 95% of the genes. So, risk of illness all of us carry. So, if somebody experiences some disturbance in his behavior, one should know that there is a risk possibility of an illness. Relative risk varies. If somebody in the family has, see, it is like everybody carries genes in the same way. Some of the genes are just covered, but because of certain circumstances, what we call epigenetics, it could be trauma, it could be toxins, mother's illness while you are in womb, your own illness while you are a child, any emotional trauma, catastrophe, anything can uncover that gene and trigger a illness. But once somebody has had a illness in the family, in the first degree relative or second degree, or so the risk of having that illness between 16 to 45 years of age increases. Otherwise, we all carry a small risk of say 1% risk of having a schizophrenia between 16 to 45. That is the age group when maximum illnesses come up, because the brain changes which happen, somehow they trigger it. Neurochemistry, the neurotransmitters, like one of which we talked about, dopamine, we have hit on correcting those neurochemicals, neurotransmitters in the brain with very, very specific working medication, and that has led to treatment. And obviously, treatment in isolation does not work. If the person is getting treated and there are no people to help him around, to readjust, to accept what is happening, obviously it will lead to more complication. As I said, acceptance and rehab. I do not think this is very important for you, but when we are talking of something like understanding how people and why people do what they do, and also we are talking about the basic structure of the neuroscience which we have understood in last few years, which we discussed in the previous lectures, and you should whatever you want me to repeat or whatever you want me to re-emphasize, we leave some space in this course, say for about 1 or 2 hours. So, if you want something specific, you can always ask me and I can talk about it in that spare time. We should look at the whole the whole culture of psychiatry and the whole culture of mental health and the whole culture of the way things are emerging. As you know, the use of psychiatry drugs has increased. There are a lot of people who want sleeping pill and anti-anxiety drugs. In fact, I think they are the most prescribed drugs if you look at it. What are the new risks? What is happening and what is the thought process which is emerging? DSM-5 is a new classificatory system which has come up in US, and there is a lot more categories. But categories are still based, as we looked into the previous slide, if you remember, they are based on description. They are not based on cause. So, if you have more categories, and obviously if you say it is a illness, any behavior is a illness, a child getting explosive anger, if a mother brings a child, say 10 or 12-year-old child, and she presents it to the doctor that he gets angry, he has academic problems and he gets angry, sometimes breaks things here and there once in a while, it will have a diagnosis. Now, anger will have a diagnosis. So, once you have a diagnosis, the onus of the medical system or a psychiatry system is again on treating. So, because we do not know the cause of it. So, if you analyze the cause, it may be an academic problem, it may be a relationship problem at home. So, with children, we can go back, look into the problem, sort those problem out, whether it is dyslexia or some physical illness and all. But imagine if we look at some situation in adult where he is not able to trace the cause and he still gets angry. There may be a cause, he may not be aware of it or he may not be sharing it. So, you have to treat it. So, you have to treat it, so you have to make drugs. So, there will be more and more medicines which will be required. This leads to what some people call it, there is a medicalization of social suffering. In this world which is crowded, the population is humongous, the resources are less, the ambitions are very high, people want everything and create pressure on their head. In this world where there is a rush, and especially in the last 50 to 60 years, countries are facing this rush for life all over. So, there is a social misery which is arising in everybody. Is this social suffering which will lead to, as I said, depression or anxiety, Again, if the medical science is trying to treat it, a lot of other people are also trying to treat it. Like we talked about the self-help books and the gurus and the new age religious gurus and who have their own cults and billions of dollars with them. They are also trying to help, I think. But what doctors do is try to treat this social suffering on the surface, which is depression and anxiety or other issues coming from some other deeper cause as a illness. So, moment you label that, you have medicalized the social suffering and then you are trying to treat it. What we do not know, whether this whole idea of depression or anxiety, or there are some depressions which are pure illnesses, like which have genetics and they are endogenous depression. People are going all right and suddenly they will have an episode of depression or an episode of excitement and mood elation called mania. But if you look at the whole lot of people who have a diagnosis of depression, this percentage is very small. There is only 2 or 3% people have some things like this. Rest of the people who have problems of living and they are not able to cope up, whether their mind is using, remember this word for the later lectures, where their mind is created a different cognitive framework or a concept to escape the stress, or it is a illness. I mean, this, some people would say you call it psychosomatic. You have a problem, have a headache is arising from your relationship, you have a continuous headache, but when you go deep you find you have a continuous relationship problem, the brain has to divert itself. So, it creates a illness, but actually it is a escape mechanism. You all remember when you did not want to go to school in the childhood, all of us used to do it. The first thing was fever, body pain, some problem in the tummy, all excuses, we still make it, all of us. The first thing, you do not want to go with your spouse, you know nothing is going to work. If you have to go, you have to go. The only escape route is that I am not feeling well. Now, once you are not feeling well, nobody can do anything. So, but this is harmless pranks. So, they do, but if it becomes a sustained way of dealing with problems, then it becomes, this escape can turn into illness, because society gives a huge weightage on being well. So, society does not want that you should keep ill for very long. So, society will say, okay, you are not well, rest, come back to work, come back to your relationship, come back to things. But if it goes on sustained, then there is a problem. Disability versus impairment. Impairment is a loss of physiological function, disability is in the mind. Somebody does not have a hand, maybe an impairment, but if he does not do anything with rest of his body and mind, that is disability. What you call dyslexia is an impairment. Some kids are not able to make the visual pattern, the brain network is not able to make a pattern of what they see. So, once they can't read, the brain forms some muzzled up images of the words, and when they try to reproduce, obviously they would not write mirror imaging, and lot of this mirror imaging like writing B and D, was and saw, like this is developmental. But even after you reach a class 1 and 2, you continue this. So, there is a problem, mirror imaging, reversals, substitutions, they do all these things and then they are not able to perform well. So, they just have an impairment, but because nobody catches them, nobody has tried to correct them, they reach class 4th and 5th and absolutely miserable condition, they have to be pushed, promoted, parents will go and listen from teachers, would have given up, and in this country where parents make their kids live for report cards largely, it leads to a whole bunch of misery and sadness in the family, very, very troublesome. The children respond in a different way. So, look at it, you look at the escape mechanisms, the brain wants to escape stress, a brain which is normal, does not have a genetic predisposition of illness, wants to escape stress, fight or flight, you remember this word. So, either the mind has to fight and come over it, that is where help comes in, that you do not run away from a situation, you just face it and move on. But if you want to escape, mind has to create something, it has to create, remember what we talked, it has to create a viable story. So, the brain of these kids reacts in two ways, either they externalize it, the stress, or they internalize it. Not only kids, all of us do it, all of us do it, because that these are the only mechanisms available to brain. So, if you are too stressed and if you have done something wrong and you are asked that okay, why did you do it, even if you would not have thought it, your brain will immediately concoct a story. But the story is laced with emotion obviously, the need is to escape, but story is to give a sensible meaning of the whole thing. Kids who internalize, they can have lack of confidence, depression. These kids may have conduct problems, anger, get into antisocial acts, be very explosive. So, it depends on what temperament the child is having. Now, the question is, what was an impairment because of external circumstances, because of the way it has not been handled, the way it has not been corrected, has turned into a disability. And this is the issue with lot of situations which we face in psychiatry. Now, whether psychiatrists are free to choose whether they do not want to get into all this heavy stuff, and you just treat whatever the person is coming with, do not bother about that is a choice, and that is perfectly legal choice. It is a legal choice because nobody is asking them that you have to really go into depth and find out the personal, the cognitive, the socio-political causes of illnesses. You are there to treat depression, you just treat depression and move on. But if you go into the process, this is the process of internalization or externalization of your temperament interacting with your temperament and your cognitive framework interacting with the external stress, and how your brain creates the story which is acceptable to you first. So, a kid who does not who has internalized this stress, who is being labeled as you are not studying, bad, this, that kid would normally, what he would do is he would tell you that okay fine, I do not study because nobody becomes happy with me and teachers are not happy and I am trying to work, my parents are not, so on and so forth. So, this is how it works. So, now you can see what I was talking in the initial lecture, nothing is independent, no man is an island. Your temperament, your genetics, your cognitive framework, your experiences, your emotional style of handling, your everything has gone into you right from maybe 2-3 years of life, and even before that your temperament would have made your mother happy or sad. There are kids who are happy kids, there are kids who are sad, and they evoke reactions from the environment. So, right from there it is on and on and on, and continuous dynamics of world and self, and it is just going on till one is alive. So, within that sometimes it becomes stressful, the stress goes beyond that normal stress required and to different ball game altogether, and then your mind internalizes and then creates a new behavior. What is the truth? So, the truth is, as I said, genetics and epigenetics. So, genetics at one point of time people were thinking is all about genetics, but now we know is the nature and nurture both work to make the human being sustain. Neurobiology, this is the imaging which tells you that this feeling of guilt or any feeling has certain brain areas which we use with the blood oxygen level dependent imaging, or you use a positron emission. You give a task and people act to it or work on it, and then you see which areas, but I mean that is not the purview of this talk. So, it is a old nature versus nature, but now it is more or less settling down that genes bring in a temperament and gene brings in the blueprint of your what you are going to be, but they can always get modulated within womb, outside, and with chemical, even with emotional trauma. Sudden emotional trauma is very well known to alter the memories, and all this goes into the brain as we have talked. Brain builds up on layer after layer of hierarchical networks of these experiences, and these experiences are continuously used to assimilate knowledge and make you act. So, it all seems to be a big illusory drama, but whatever illusion it is there. So, epigenetics, the commonest, some of you who may be interested in biology, is methylation, is an epigenetic factor found in some dietary resources, can tag DNA and activate or repress genes. So, genes which are quietly silent, by methylation they would suddenly open up. So, it is like this, there is a ill patient and well expert. We are talking about a diagnostic category, or tell him that you are a human being who has a problem, please go. This chap seems to be doing fine, but that does not fit in with the diagnostic manual. This was supposed to be a lifelong condition. Actually, I am starting to feel a lot better, but that was not supposed to happen because it was a life condition. I was not supposed to, but then by diagnosis you start feeling. So, this type of mythological story. So, the important thing is, where I would like to end this, is a diagnostic category and behavioral symptom, or the societal norms, or the prescribed way of behaving is the only thing. Where does, I ended one of the previous talks, if you look at where is me, where is my will, where do I belong to, is an individual important? Where is my story? Because after all I live in my story. So, we will stop at this and just try to summing up that this narrative is my story, which everything which has gone into my mind has built up a concept of self, and this self takes stress and stimulus, and then I have to keep rebuilding it. So, is it all about my story, or is it about the society, and where do I need to change? So, what I will do is I will end at this, and after this I will give you an example of one of the very common situations, and then henceforth in the further lectures we will talk about where does it all lead to, what is the need for change and transformation. Thank you.